I still remember the smell of cheap coffee and industrial cleaner that defined my mornings at Hartwell and Associates. My name is Emma Carter, and for 3 years I'd been the receptionist at one of Manhattan's most prestigious consulting firms. Every day I'd arrive at 7 a.m., an hour before anyone else, to make sure the lobby looked perfect, the coffee was fresh, and the conference rooms were spotless. My salary barely covered rent in a tiny studio in Queens, but I told myself it was temporary. I was taking night classes in business administration, dreaming of the day I'd be more than just the girl who smiled and said good morning to executives who never bothered to learn my name. Except for one. Daniel Morrison was different. He was a senior consultant, always rushing through the lobby with his perfectly tailored suits and leather briefcase. But he'd always stop to say hello. Not the fake corporate hello, but a real one, with eye contact and a genuine smile. Sometimes he'd ask how my classes were going, or if I'd finished that book I'd mentioned weeks ago. He remembered things. I developed a crush, of course. How could I not? But I kept it buried deep, knowing that someone like Daniel, who drove a BMW and summered in the Hamptons, would never look twice at someone like me. We existed in different worlds, separated by about 6 floors and $1 million in annual income. Then there was Derek Hartwell. Derek was the founder's son, a vice president who'd inherited his position along with his father's last name. He was arrogant, entitled, and seemed to take pleasure in making people beneath him feel small. To him, I wasn't Emma. I was just the receptionist, interchangeable with the furniture. One Tuesday morning in November, I was organizing files behind the reception desk when Derek approached with 2 of his colleagues. They were laughing about something, and I could smell expensive cologne mixed with last night's whiskey. Derek leaned against my desk, looking at his friends rather than at me. He dropped a coffee cup right in front of me, letting it clatter loudly. Half the cold coffee spilled across the papers I'd been organizing. "Clean that up," he said, not even glancing my way. "And next time, try to make coffee that doesn't taste like dirt. Maybe take a class or something." "Oh wait, you're already taking classes, right? How's that working out for you?" His friends laughed. I felt my face burn as I grabbed paper towels, my hands shaking. This wasn't the first time Derek had humiliated me, but something about doing it in front of an audience made it worse. As I cleaned up the mess, I heard Daniel's voice cut through their laughter. "That was unnecessary, Derek." Derek turned, his smile fading slightly. "Oh, come on, Morrison. I'm just joking around." Daniel's jaw tightened. He looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes. Anger maybe, or disappointment. He opened his mouth to say more, but Derek was already walking away, his friends trailing behind him, their laughter echoing down the hallway. Daniel stayed. He helped me pick up the soggy papers, even though I told him he didn't have to. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "You deserve better than that." Those 4 words broke something in me. I felt tears threatening, but I blinked them back. "It's fine," I lied. "I'm used to it." "You shouldn't have to be used to it, Emma." The way he said my name like it mattered, like I mattered, made my throat tight. I just nodded, not trusting myself to speak. That afternoon, I sat in my business ethics class, barely paying attention to the professor. My phone buzzed with a text from my roommate asking if I could cover her portion of the electricity bill this month. I looked at my bank account and felt that familiar weight in my chest. I was working full-time, going to school at night, and still couldn't get ahead. When I got home that night, I found an eviction notice on my door. My landlord was selling the building, and I had 60 days to find a new place. In New York City, on my salary, that might as well have been impossible. I sat on my worn couch and let myself cry. Not because of Derek's cruelty, not because of the eviction notice, but because I was so tired. Tired of struggling, tired of being invisible, tired of dreaming about a better life that seemed to get further away every day. I didn't know that everything was about to change. I didn't know that Daniel Morrison had been watching me for far longer than I'd realized, seeing things in me that I couldn't see in myself. And I definitely didn't know about the secret that would turn my entire world upside down. The next few weeks were a blur of apartment hunting and rejection. Every place I could afford was either a shoebox with mold or required 3 months rent up front that I didn't have. I started staying later at work, partly to avoid going home to pack, partly because the office was warmer than my apartment where I'd started turning off the heat to save money. Daniel noticed. He always noticed. One evening around 8, I was still at my desk, searching rental listings on my phone, when he came down from his floor. "Emma, you're still here?" Quickly closed my phone. "Just finishing up some things." He tilted his head, and I could tell he didn't believe me. "Have you eaten?" I hadn't. I'd been living on ramen and peanut butter sandwiches for 2 weeks. "I'm fine, really. Come on. There's a diner around the corner. My treat. I need to eat anyway, and I hate eating alone." I should have said no. There were invisible lines between people like him and people like me, and crossing them only led to complications. But I was hungry and tired, and he was looking at me with those kind eyes, and I heard myself say okay. The diner was warm and bright, the kind of place where the waitress called everyone honey and the coffee came in thick ceramic mugs. We sat in a booth by the window, and for the first time in 3 years, I had a real conversation with Daniel Morrison that wasn't just polite small talk in a lobby. He asked about my classes. I asked about his work. He told me about growing up in Connecticut, about his father's expectations and his own dreams. I told him about losing my parents in a car accident when I was 19, about putting myself through school, about wanting to prove that I could be more than my circumstances. "You already are more, Emma." He said it so simply, like it was obvious. "You're one of the smartest, most determined people I know." The fact that Derek and people like him can't see that says everything about them and nothing about you. Something shifted between us in that moment. The air felt different, charged with possibility. We started meeting at that diner every week, then twice a week, then almost every night. It stopped being about food and became about us, about conversations that stretched for hours, about discovering that despite our different worlds, we understood each other in ways that mattered. 3 months later, on a freezing February night, Daniel kissed me in the snow outside that diner. "I love you, Emma Carter. I don't care about job titles or tax brackets or what anyone thinks. I love you." I loved him too, desperately, completely, impossibly. But I had no idea that loving Daniel Morrison came with secrets that would change everything. Secrets about his family, about his real identity, about why he'd been working at Hartwell and Associates in the first place. The truth was coming, and it would turn my entire world upside down. 6 months into our relationship, Daniel asked me to move in with him. His penthouse in Tribeca was like something from a magazine, all floor-to-ceiling windows and marble countertops. I felt like an imposter every time I walked through the door, but Daniel made it feel like home. Work became complicated. We kept our relationship secret, knowing that office politics would tear us apart if anyone found out. Every morning I'd arrive alone, sit behind my reception desk, and watch him walk past with nothing more than a polite nod. Killed me, but we both knew it was necessary. Derek's behavior got worse. He seemed to take special pleasure in humiliating me in front of clients. One afternoon, he made me redo the same spreadsheet 4 times, then threw the papers at me when I finally got it right, letting them scatter across the lobby floor. "Pick those up, and maybe consider if you're really cut out for this kind of environment." I bent down to gather the papers, my face burning, my eyes stinging with tears I refused to let fall. When I looked up, Daniel was standing there. His face was white with rage. "My office. Now." Derek's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Daniel didn't move. "I think you owe Emma an apology." Derek laughed, a cold sound that echoed in the marble lobby. "I don't owe the receptionist anything, Morrison. Now get back to work before I write you up for insubordination." That night, Daniel paced our apartment like a caged animal. "I can't do this anymore, Emma. I can't watch him treat you like that. I can't pretend we're nothing to each other." He stopped, turned to face me, and took my hands. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you months ago." My heart started racing. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "My full name is Daniel Morrison Blackwell. My mother is Catherine Blackwell. She owns Blackwell Industries." I stared at him. Blackwell Industries was one of the largest private equity firms in the country, worth billions. "I don't understand. I've been working at Hartwell under my middle name because my mother wanted me to learn the business from the ground up, without the Blackwell name opening doors. She's been planning to acquire Hartwell and Associates for over a year. The deal closes next month. The room spun. What does that mean? It means that in 30 days my mother will own Hartwell, and she's putting me in charge as CEO. He squeezed my hands. It means Derek Hartwell is about to learn what it feels like to have his world turned upside down. I thought about every humiliation, every cruel word, every time Derek had made me feel worthless. And suddenly, I understood what Daniel was offering me. Revenge wouldn't just be sweet. It would be perfectly served. If you're invested in seeing how this plays out, take a moment and hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next at the company holiday party is something nobody will see coming. The following Monday, everything changed at Hartwell and Associates, now officially Blackwell Consulting Group. Daniel moved into the corner office that had belonged to Derek's father. I stayed at the reception desk, but now I had a new title, executive assistant to the CEO, with a salary that made my old paycheck look like lunch money. Daniel wanted me by his side, but we both agreed I'd earned the right to watch the transition up close. Derek was demoted to junior consultant. His corner office went to someone who'd actually earned it. His company car was returned. His expense account was frozen pending review, and that review found thousands of dollars in personal charges that he'd have to pay back. But the real justice wasn't in his demotion. It was in watching him realize that the people he'd spent years stepping on were now the ones evaluating his performance. I sat in on his first performance review. Daniel led the meeting, professional and cold. Your numbers are below average, Derek. Your client retention rate is the lowest in the company. Multiple colleagues have filed complaints about your conduct. Derek's face was red. This is ridiculous. My father built this company. Your father sold this company, Daniel corrected. And now it's being run by people who value competence over nepotism. You have 90 days to improve your performance, or we'll be having a different conversation. After Derek left, looking like he'd aged 10 years, Daniel turned to me. Too harsh? I thought about 3 years of humiliation, of coffee cups thrown at me, of being treated like I was invisible. Not harsh enough, I said. Over the next few months, I enrolled in an executive MBA program, this time paid for by the company. Daniel and I went public with our relationship, and while there were whispers, no one dared say anything negative. Not when I was proving myself every single day, not when I was working harder than anyone else in the building. Derek barely lasted the 90 days. He quit before he could be fired, taking a position at a much smaller firm where his father's name still meant something. The day he cleaned out his desk, he had to walk past mine. He stopped, looked at me with something that might have been understanding, or might have been defeat. I was wrong about you. I looked up from my computer. Yes, you were. He nodded and walked out. I never saw him again. That evening, Daniel and I stood in his office, looking out at the Manhattan skyline as the sun set over the Hudson River. How does it feel? He asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I leaned back against him, feeling the solid warmth of him, the safety I'd never known before. Like justice, I said. Like proof that kindness matters more than cruelty. Like the beginning of something real. He kissed the top of my head. It is the beginning, Emma. For both of us. 2 years later, I stood in front of the same conference room where Derek had once humiliated me, but everything was different now. I completed my MBA with honors. Daniel had promoted me to Vice President of Operations, a position I'd earned through countless late nights, successful projects, and proving myself over and over again to anyone who still doubted that I belonged in that world. Tonight was the company holiday party, held in the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, champagne flowed freely, and everyone who was anyone in New York consulting was there. But I wasn't nervous anymore. I wasn't the girl who cleaned up coffee spills and swallowed humiliation. I was Emma Morrison now, Daniel's wife of 6 months, and I'd learned that power wasn't about putting others down. It was about lifting people up. I took the microphone, and the room fell silent. Good evening, everyone. As many of you know, Blackwell Consulting has had quite a transformation over the past 2 years. We've doubled our client base, increased employee satisfaction by 60%, and we've been named one of the best places to work in New York City. Applause filled the room. Daniel caught my eye from across the ballroom and smiled, that same genuine smile that had made me fall in love with him years ago. But I'm most proud of our new mentorship program. Starting next month, we'll be offering full scholarships to 20 young professionals from underrepresented backgrounds, providing them with education, training, and a clear path to advancement within our company. Because everyone deserves a chance to prove what they're capable of, regardless of where they started. The applause was thunderous. I saw tears in the eyes of some of our younger employees, people who reminded me of who I used to be. After the speeches, I found myself near the windows, looking out at the glittering lights of Central Park. A woman approached one of the new junior consultants. "Ms. Morrison, I just wanted to say thank you. I was working 3 jobs when I applied here. This opportunity, it's everything." I took her hand. "I know exactly how that feels. Work hard, be kind to people, and remember where you came from. That's the real secret." Daniel appeared at my side, slipping his arm around my waist. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Morrison?" I looked around the ballroom one last time, at the company we'd built together, at the people whose lives we were changing, at the future we were creating. More than ready. As we walked out into the snowy New York night, I thought about that scared girl behind the reception desk, the one who thought she'd never be more than invisible. I wished I could tell her that kindness wins, that love is real, that the people who try to make you feel small are only revealing their own insecurity. But mostly, I wished I could tell her to hold on, because the best was yet to come. Thank you so much for watching this story until the very end. If it touched your heart, please hit that like button and leave a comment below telling me what you thought. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories of transformation and justice. And let me know in the comments what kind of story you'd like to see next. Your support means everything. Until next time, remember that your worth is never defined by how others treat you, but by how you treat yourself and others. See you in the next one.